Welcome, dear friends, to a journey back to the dawn of human civilization, a time when the world was young and our ancestors began to shape history with their own hands. Today, we step into the mysterious world of Göbekli Tepe, the oldest known monumental structure ever discovered, predating Stonehenge by more than ling years. Instituted for millennia. This sacred site in southeastern Turkey is a puzzle carved in stone. Its towering pillars, intricate animal carvings, and enigmatic layout whispering secrets of a time before written history. This is not just a story about archaeology. It's a window into the minds and beliefs of people who lived over ling years ago. How did they organize to build something so massive before the invention of agriculture? What did these strange, powerful symbols mean to them? And why did they bury their own creation? Join me as we explore its ancient stones, meet the people who may have built it, and uncover the theories, both mainstream and controversial, about its purpose. This is the story of human ingenuity, mystery, and the birth of the sacred. Welcome to Göbekli Tepe, the world's first. In by a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt stood on a dusty hilltop in southeastern Turkey, staring at something that would rewrite the story of humanity. Locals had long called the place Potbelly Hill, Göbekli Tepe in Turkish. Farmers had plowed the surrounding fields for generations, unknowing that just beneath their feet lay a site older than any pyramid, older than Stonehenge, older even than agriculture itself. Schmidt had been searching for prehistoric settlements when he noticed fragments of stone poking through the earth. But these weren't ordinary stones. They were massive carved pillars, some weighing up to tons, arranged in circles. The style and craftsmanship were unlike anything from known Neolithic sites. When radiocarbon dating confirmed the unimaginable, that the site was over ling years old, the world's understanding of early civilization shifted. Here was proof that complex societies, capable of planning and monumental construction, existed thousands of years before anyone thought possible. Göbekli Tepe was no simple village. There were no signs of permanent homes or farming. Instead, its layout and carvings hinted at a ceremonial or religious purpose, a gathering place for rituals, storytelling, and perhaps the first organized worship. It was the dawn of something monumental. In more ways than one, southeastern Turkey is a rugged land of rolling hills, ancient trade routes, and deep history. For thousands of years, it has been a crossroads, where Asia meets Europe and where cultures have risen and fallen. Long before Göbekli Tepe was rediscovered, this region was home to hunter-gatherers who roamed the fertile plains, fort lanes, hunting gazelle, gathering wild wheat, and fishing in nearby rivers. In the Neolithic dawn, this was a land rich in resources but harsh in climate. Summers were scorching, winters cold and biting. Yet, it offered the perfect combination of abundant game, edible plants, and fresh water to sustain small communities. Many archaeologists once believed that temples and large structures only appeared after agriculture, when humans settled in villages. But Göbekli Tepe defies this logic. It suggests that shared belief, not food production, may have been the first force to unite people in great projects. The landscape around Göbekli Tepe hides other ancient sites still buried, perhaps connected in purpose. Each hill could conceal another chapter of humanity's untold story. As the sun sets over the dry plains, casting long shadows across the land, one can almost imagine the silhouettes of prehistoric builders hauling stones, their chants echoing into the night. When the first excavation began at Göbekli Tepe, the team worked cautiously. The site had been covered by centuries of wind-blown soil, protecting the ancient stones beneath. Each shovelful brought the past closer to light. As dirt fell away, the massive T-shaped pillars emerged, some standing, others fallen and buried. Their surfaces were not smooth but decorated with intricate carvings. Foxes, snakes, vultures, and wild boar seemed to leap from the stone. These images were more than art. They were messages from the ancient mind. Each animal may have carried symbolic meaning, perhaps tied to myths, hunting rituals, or clan identities. The precision of the carvings astonished researchers. With no metal tools, these artisans had shaped limestone with remarkable skill, suggesting a deep tradition of craftsmanship. As the excavation widened, a pattern emerged: circular enclosures of pillars, with two taller stones at the center. These central twins seemed to be the focus of each ring, perhaps representing deities, ancestors, or cosmic forces. For Schmidt and his team, every uncovered detail was a revelation. But the most shocking truth was yet to come. This place was far older than any other known human monument. At first, many experts refused to believe Göbekli Tepe could be older than Schurling years. The craftsmanship was too advanced. But radiocarbon dating told the truth. Construction began around Jutsen Lupai BCE, at the end of the last ice age. This made Göbekli Tepe more than twice as old as Stonehenge. Dating was done using organic remains found in the soil, tiny charred seeds, fragments of bone, and traces of wooden tools. Each was sent to laboratories, where scientists calculated their age with remarkable precision. The results stunned the academic world. If Göbekli Tepe was truly this old, it meant that organized religion and monumental architecture predated agriculture. This flipped the traditional timeline of, instead of farming leading to temples, perhaps shared belief and ritual gatherings encouraged the development of farming. The find sparked debates in conferences and academic journals. Some scholars embraced the new theory, others resisted, arguing that more proof was needed. But one thing was certain: Göbekli Tepe was no accident. It was the work of visionary minds who gathered hundreds of people for a singular purpose: to build something that would outlast them all. One of the greatest puzzles of Göbekli Tepe is how its builders managed such a feat. Without farming, traditional history says large-scale construction requires settled communities with surplus food. But the people who built Göbekli Tepe were still hunter-gatherers. Archaeologists believe seasonal gatherings were the key. Multiple groups from surrounding regions may have come together once or twice a year for rituals, feasts, and building work. These gatherings would have required careful planning, hunting enough game, gathering wild grains, and preparing vast amounts of food to feed hundreds. Moving the stone pillars, some weighing more than tons, required teamwork. Wooden sledges, stone rollers, and sheer human strength likely transported them from nearby quarries. Without beasts of burden, every step was powered by human muscle and determination. This cooperation hints at a powerful unifying force, likely spiritual or religious in nature. Göbekli Tepe may have been a sacred site where myths were told, alliances forged, and the cycle of life honored. The fact that this was achieved before the first domesticated crops suggests that belief itself might have been the first true architect of civilization. The most striking feature of Göbekli Tepe is its towering T-shaped limestone pillars. Some stand over, sheer feet tall, their flat tops stretching toward the sky. They are not random slabs. Each has been carefully quarried, shaped, and transported before being set upright in deep stone sockets. Many of these pillars weigh between tons. Their surfaces, smoothed with painstaking care. Some stand alone, while others form part of circular enclosures. The two tallest pillars always occupy the center, facing each other, like silent sentinels. These central monoliths often bear intricate carvings, arms, hands, belts, and loincloths, suggesting they may represent stylized human or divine figures. For the people of Jutsen-Lutbide BCE, these pillars may have embodied gods, ancestors, or cosmic guardians. Standing among them would have been an awe-inspiring experience. A forest of stone rising from the hilltop, its silhouettes visible for miles. Even today, the sheer scale of the pillars defies belief. Without cranes or wheels, their movement and placement demanded not only strength, but advanced planning and communal coordination. They are a testament to the determination of a people who sought to connect earth and sky through stone. The pillars of Göbekli Tepe are alive with images. Foxes slinking across the stone, boars charging forward, vultures with outstretched wings, snakes coiling like living threads. These carvings are not random decorations. They appear to follow symbolic patterns. Animal motifs dominate the art, suggesting deep spiritual connections between humans and the creatures they hunted or revered. In some carvings, vultures seem to be carrying human heads, perhaps a reference to death rituals or the journey of the soul. Snakes and scorpions may have represented danger, transformation, or protection. The detail is remarkable for a time without metal tools. Craftsmen would have used flint chisels, pounding stones, and hours of patient labor to etch every curve and feather. Some images are in high relief, projecting boldly from the stone. Others are delicate incisions, barely raised from the surface. Scholars debate whether these carvings tell stories, record events, or act as protective symbols for the sacred site. For the builders, each image may have been part of a larger cosmology, a visual language passed down orally through generations. Standing among the pillars, surrounded by these stone animals, one might have felt they were stepping into another world, one where human and spirit realms touched. Göbekli Tepe's location was no accident. Perched atop a limestone ridge, it commands sweeping views of the surrounding plains. To reach it, ancient visitors would have climbed the hill, leaving the everyday world behind. From this height, the land rolls away in every direction, and the horizon meets the sky in a perfect circle. The name Potbelly Hill may be modern, but for those who built it, this place was almost certainly sacred. Elevated ground has often been chosen for holy sites, symbolizing closeness to the heavens. The hill itself could have been a natural focal point for tribes scattered across the region. Seasonal gatherings here would have been visible from miles away. Fires on the hilltop, chanting voices carried by the wind, processions winding upward as the sun set. Today, the sense of the sacred is still tangible. Standing among the stone circles, with the wind sweeping over the hill, it is easy to imagine the hum of ancient ceremonies. Whether it was a temple, a meeting place, or something else entirely, Göbekli Tepe's builders chose their hill wisely. It was not only a center of belief, but also a beacon, visible proof of unity in a time before cities. The people of Göbekli Tepe's time were not farmers, yet they were far from primitive. They were expert hunters, able to track gazelles, aurochs, and wild sheep across the plains. They knew the seasons of migration, the best fishing spots, and the plants that could heal or harm. Gatherers, often women, moved through the hills collecting wild wheat, barley, lentils, and berries. They understood the land intimately, which areas produced the richest harvest, which streams ran dry in summer. But these were not only practical people, they were visionaries. To conceive of Göbekli Tepe, they had to imagine something beyond daily survival. They had to plan, organize, and inspire hundreds to work toward a common goal. This required leadership, a shared belief system, and the ability to communicate complex ideas. Perhaps the builders were also storytellers, passing down myths that inspired the construction. Around campfires, they might have spoken of spirits dwelling in the stones, or of gods who demanded a house on the hill. These were the people who took the first steps toward civilization, not by planting seeds in the soil, but by planting symbols in stone within the stone circles of Göbekli Tepe. Something extraordinary took place. Archaeologists believe these enclosures were ceremonial spaces, outdoor temples under the open sky. The arrangement of pillars suggests they were designed for gatherings, with the central monoliths serving as focal points. Imagine stepping into one of these circles. Shuri, Lincoln years ago, the ground would be swept clean, fires burning in nearby pits, the air thick with the scent of roasting meat and herbal smoke. People would gather in anticipation, their faces painted with ochre, their bodies adorned with beads and feathers. Shamans or ritual leaders might chant prayers, invoking spirits of the hunt, the ancestors, or celestial powers. Drums made of stretched animal hide would beat steadily, echoing against the stone. Dancers would move between the pillars, their shadows flickering in the firelight. These rituals could have marked seasonal changes, honored the dead, or celebrated successful hunts. Their purpose, they would have reinforced the community's shared beliefs, making Göbekli Tepe not just a physical center, but a spiritual one. Even in silence today, the circles seem to hum with ancient echoes. The builders of Göbekli Tepe achieved engineering feats without a single piece of metal. Their world knew only stone, wood, bone, and sinew, yet they quarried and shaped pillars, weighing up to tons with astonishing precision. The process began at the limestone quarries near the site. Using flint chisels and hammerstones, workers cut deep grooves into the rock, slowly freeing massive blocks. Wooden levers pried the stones loose, and logs or sledges were placed beneath for transport. Without wheels or beasts of burden, moving these monoliths required human coordination on a massive scale. Teams pulled with ropes made from twisted plant fibers, while others guided the load over stone rollers or dragged it across slicked mud paths. At the site, deep sockets were dug to anchor each pillar. The stones were tipped upright, likely using a combination of earthen ramps and sheer human strength. Once in place, artisans smoothed and carved the surfaces. Every step demanded planning skill and community effort, proof that these early people had mastered both the physical and social tools of large-scale construction. Their achievement stands as one of humanity's earliest testaments to ingenuity. First, while many labored to move and set the great stones, others dedicated themselves to shaping their surfaces into works of art. These artisans were the storytellers of stone, capturing animals, symbols, and human forms with precision and care. Flint chisels, antler picks, and sandstone polishers were their tools. The work was slow and exacting. Every line of a fox's fur, every curve of a vulture's wing carefully planned. Some carvings seem almost three-dimensional, their shadows shifting in the changing light. Artisans likely trained for years, learning from elders who passed down techniques and symbolic traditions. The accuracy of the animal forms suggests intimate observation of wildlife. Hunters and artists working side by side, sharing knowledge. Art was more than decoration. It was communication. Without writing, the people of Göbekli Tepe carved their beliefs, myths, and warnings into the pillars. These symbols were the shared language of their community, understood by all who gathered here. The artisan's legacy endures in every groove and relief. Silent voices from a time before words. Building Göbekli Tepe was not just work, it was celebration. Archaeologists have found evidence of massive feasts, with bones from hundreds of animals scattered around the site. Wild gazelle, aurochs, boar, and birds were roasted over open fires, while wild grains were ground into porridge or baked into flatbreads. These feasts likely marked important stages of construction or seasonal ceremonies. They served as more than just sustenance. They were a means of uniting diverse groups. People traveled from miles away, bringing food, stories, and songs. Around the fires, alliances were formed, disputes settled, and marriages arranged. Music filled the night. Drums, rattles, and flutes carved from bird bones. The rhythm of the drums echoed off the pillars, mixing with the laughter and chanting of the gathered crowd. In a time before permanent settlements, these gatherings reinforced bonds that kept far-flung communities connected. The feasts of Göbekli Tepe were as much about feeding the spirit as feeding the body. Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe's builders looked not only to the earth, but also to the stars. The layout of the stone circles may have been aligned with celestial events. The rising of certain stars, solstices, or lunar cycles. In a world without electric light, the night sky was a dazzling tapestry. The Milky Way stretched across the heavens, constellations standing bright and sharp. It's possible that certain animals carved on the pillars represented star patterns, a celestial map encoded in stone. For a hunter-gatherer society, understanding the stars meant knowing when animals migrated, when plants ripened, and when weather would change. Astronomy was not just science, it was survival, woven deeply into spiritual belief. Perhaps ceremonies were timed to coincide with specific alignments, the stone pillars framing certain stars, as the people danced and prayed beneath them. Standing there under a moonless sky, the entire universe would have seemed close enough to touch. With the first in a society without kings or written laws, spiritual leaders held immense influence. Shamans at Göbekli Tepe likely guided both the construction and the ceremonies that took place there. They were the keepers of stories, healers, and intermediaries between the human and spirit worlds. Dressed in animal skins adorned with feathers, teeth, and carved amulets, they commanded respect. Their voices led chants, their hands blessed the hunters, and their visions, perhaps induced by trance or sacred plants, shaped the community's beliefs. Shamans may have interpreted the carvings, explaining the meaning of foxes, snakes, and vultures. They decided when ceremonies should be held and which rituals would bring success in hunting, fertility, or protection from harm. In return, the community provided for them, ensuring they had the time and resources to fulfill their sacred role. The shamans of Göbekli Tepe were not rulers in the political sense, but in the realm of belief. They were unmatched. Death was never far from the lives of Göbekli Tepe's builders. Hunting dangerous game, surviving harsh winters, and facing illness meant life was fragile. Yet the people here didn't see death as an end, but as a passage to another realm. Some carvings suggest a connection between animals and the journey of the soul. Vultures, for example, are shown alongside headless human figures, imagery similar to burial practices found in nearby Neolithic sites where bodies were left exposed for birds to clean the bones before final interment. This sky burial may have been part of a spiritual belief that vultures carried souls to the afterlife. The central pillars, possibly representing gods or ancestors, could have served as spiritual gatekeepers. Ceremonies honoring the dead may have taken place here, ensuring safe passage for loved ones into the next world. In these rituals, life and death were not separate forces, but two parts of the same eternal cycle. Göbekli Tepe was as much about honoring what had passed as celebrating what endured. One of the greatest puzzles of Göbekli Tepe is that it was intentionally buried Around Batian BCE, after centuries of use, its builders filled the enclosures with rubble, soil, and broken tools. This was not the slow work of nature. It was deliberate. Why would they cover such a monumental achievement? Some suggest the site lost its significance as new beliefs emerged. Others think it was a sacred act, sealing the place forever, like a tomb for the gods. It's also possible that a catastrophic event, such as climate change or resource depletion, forced the community to move on, and burying the site was a way to preserve its power. Whatever the reason, this act of burial protected Göbekli Tepe for over Ling years. While other ancient structures eroded or were dismantled, Göbekli Tepe slept beneath the earth, waiting for rediscovery. When Klaus Schmidt and his team uncovered it, they were not just excavating stone. They were unearthing the intentional farewell of a forgotten people. After its burial, Göbekli Tepe faded from human memory. Generations came and went, never knowing the sacred hill they walked past each day held a monument from the dawn of civilization. Over thousands of years, the land changed. Grasslands spread, forests retreated, and new peoples arrived. Herders, farmers, empires. Potbelly Hill became just another rise in the landscape, unremarkable to all but the farmers, who plowed its slopes. They occasionally found carved stones in their fields, but thought little of it. As centuries passed, even the faintest oral memory of the site vanished. Göbekli Tepe survived precisely because it was forgotten. No one dismantled it for stone. No conquerors repurposed it for their own temples. It would take the sharp eyes of modern archaeologists to finally break the silence, and reveal that humanity's first monumental builders had left their mark here, hidden in plain sight. In the mid-Unearthed century, survey teams mapped archaeological sites across southeastern Turkey. Göbekli Tepe was noted but thought to be a medieval cemetery. For decades, it sat largely ignored, visited only by occasional researchers. That changed in when Klaus Schmidt, exploring the region, after working at a nearby Neolithic site, stopped at Potbelly Hill. Walking the ground, he noticed the shape of the stones, weathered yet clearly carved. The hill's scatter of flint tools and limestone fragments told him this was no medieval ruin. Within months, Schmidt began excavations. As the soil peeled away, the first T-shaped pillars rose into the sunlight. After Ling years, news spread quickly. This was not just old. It was prehistoric on a scale no one had seen before. The rediscovery marked the start of one of archaeology's greatest revelations. Göbekli Tepe was about to rewrite history. Klaus Schmidt devoted the rest of his life to Göbekli Tepe. A meticulous and passionate archaeologist, he saw in its stones a chance to understand humanity's earliest steps toward civilization. He led excavation teams through blistering summers and cold winters, carefully uncovering each pillar. His approach combined scientific rigor with deep respect for the site's builders. He often said, "This is not just archaeology. This is a conversation with the past." Schmidt tirelessly documented every carving, socket, and tool fragment. He pushed for Göbekli Tepe's protection and for its recognition as a World Heritage Site. His work drew global attention, inspiring documentaries, books, and debates about the origins of human society. Tragically, Schmidt passed away in Ling, but his legacy lives on in every stone that now stands in the open air. Without his persistence, Göbekli Tepe might still be sleeping beneath its blanket of soil. Digging at Göbekli Tepe was never simple. The site lay under tons of compacted soil and rubble, much of it intentionally placed there by its builders. Every inch had to be excavated slowly, using shovels, brushes, and even dental tools to avoid damaging the ancient stones. The region's climate added to the difficulty. Summers brought scorching heat that baked the soil into rock-hard layers, while winters brought cold winds and rain that turned the dig into mud. Equipment had to be carried up the hill daily, and fragile artifacts required immediate conservation. Protecting the site from modern threats was also a challenge. Curious visitors, looters, and erosion threatened the delicate carvings. Temporary shelters were erected to shield the pillars from sun and rain, while excavation areas were fenced to prevent accidental damage. Despite these obstacles, the team worked season after season, knowing that every day revealed another fragment of humanity's forgotten past. Knowing each carved fox or snake that emerged from the earth was a reward for their persistence, the T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe are more than just architectural supports. They are symbols. Many feature human-like elements, arms carved along the sides, hands resting on the front, belts with loincloths etched in detail. These suggest that the pillars themselves may have represented deities, ancestors, or mythical beings, or for the race clans. The central twin pillars in each enclosure could symbolize a pair of gods, a balance of forces, or a gateway between worlds. Animal carvings may have told stories from a shared mythos. Foxes as tricksters, vultures as soul carriers, snakes as protectors or symbols of transformation. Without written records, these meanings remain speculative. Yet, across cultures, we see similar motifs: animals standing as spiritual guides, human-like forms representing the divine, and twin figures guarding sacred spaces. Göbekli Tepe's pillars may have been more than art and engineering. They were the physical embodiment of belief, standing in silent witness to a cosmology now lost to time. Göbekli Tepe did not exist in isolation. Archaeologists have found similar, though smaller, stone enclosures at sites such as Nevalichori and Karahan Tepe, suggesting a broader cultural network in the region. These sites share architectural traits: T-shaped pillars, animal carvings, and circular layouts, hinting at a shared religious or ceremonial tradition that spread across southeastern Anatolia. Such a network would have required communication between distant communities, perhaps through seasonal migrations or intertribal gatherings. The similarities also suggest that the people of this era were not isolated bands, but part of a cultural landscape connected by ideas, trade, and shared beliefs. The knowledge to quarry and carve stone, plan large enclosures, and create symbolic art may have traveled across miles of rugged terrain, carried by skilled artisans and visionary leaders. By linking these sites, archaeologists are piecing together a map of a civilization without cities, one that united people through spirituality. Long before political states arose, many scholars call Göbekli Tepe the world's first temple, a sacred space built by hunter-gatherers thousands of years before writing or agriculture. Its size, complexity, and symbolic carvings suggest it was more than a meeting place. It was a center of belief. The lack of domestic structures supports this theory. No houses, hearths, or everyday tools have been found within the enclosures. Instead, everything points to ritual use, monumental pillars, animal reliefs, and a layout designed to impress and inspire. If true, this would mean religion, not agriculture, was the first force to unite large groups of people in common purpose. This idea challenges the long-held belief that farming led to civilization. At Göbekli Tepe, the evidence suggests it may have been the other way around. Durel. That shared spiritual goals drove the development of complex social structures, which then made agriculture. Whether or not it was truly the first temple, it remains the oldest known monumental site built for ceremonial purposes, forever changing our understanding of human history. Not everyone agrees on Göbekli Tepe's origins. While most archaeologists attribute it to skilled Neolithic hunter-gatherers, alternative theories have emerged, some far more sensational. Thus, one fringe idea suggests that Göbekli Tepe was built with the help of an advanced lost civilization or even extraterrestrials. Proponents point to the precision of the carvings, the size of the stones, and the site's astronomical alignments as evidence of knowledge beyond the capabilities of its time. Mainstream scholars argue that such theories underestimate the ingenuity of early humans. The people who built Göbekli Tepe had generations of accumulated knowledge, a deep connection to their environment, and the ability to organize large-scale communal projects without cities or writing. While the alien theory captures the imagination, the more remarkable truth may be that our ancestors achieved this on their own, proving that human creativity and cooperation are as old as humanity itself. In the end, the mystery of Göbekli Tepe fuels both scholarly debate and public fascination, ensuring it will remain a source of wonder for years to come. At Göbekli Tepe, animals were more than just food. They were spiritual symbols. Each carving may have served as a totem, representing clans, tribes, or protective spirits. Foxes, wild boar, aurochs, cranes, snakes, and vultures dominate the artwork, each with its own possible meaning. A fox might represent cunning and agility. A crane might symbolize longevity, while vultures could be linked to death and the journey of the soul. These creatures likely played a role in myths told around the fire, stories that bound the community together. Totem animals may have acted as intermediaries between humans and the spirit world. Shamans could have invoked their traits during rituals, wearing masks or cloaks made from their hides and feathers. The presence of so many carved species also reflects the builders' deep connection to the natural world. They knew each animal's habits, hunting seasons, and symbolic place in their belief system. The pillars thus became more than stone. They were a living bestiary of the people's spiritual universe. Rinpoche universe. Some researchers believe Göbekli Tepe's carvings are more than decorative. Not for Tepe Shu. They may be a map of the sky as it appeared, years ago. Certain pillar arrangements could align with constellations or track celestial events like solstices and equinoxes. One theory suggests the vulture stone depicts a cosmic event, possibly a comet impact during the Younger Dryas period. Animal symbols on the stone might correspond to star constellations, turning the site into a prehistoric astronomical record. If true, this would mean Göbekli Tepe served as both a ceremonial center and an ancient observatory. Its builders may have used the stars to guide migration, hunting schedules, and ritual calendars. For a people without writing, recording the heavens in stone would have been a way to preserve vital knowledge across generations. Standing in the stone circle under the night sky, the link between Earth and cosmos becomes undeniable. Göbekli Tepe likely drew people from across the region during specific times of the year, perhaps at solstices, harvests of wild grain, or seasonal hunts. These gatherings were more than religious events. They were opportunities for trade, alliance building, and storytelling. Hundreds of people might camp around the hill, their shelters forming a temporary city of hides and brushwood. Fires burned day and night, smoke rising into the cold night air. Musicians played bone flutes and drums, while dancers moved in rhythmic circles, echoing the shape of the stone enclosures. The gatherings reinforced social ties between distant groups, making marriages, trade agreements, and cooperative hunts possible. They also allowed for the passing down of traditions and myths and carving techniques to younger generations. Such seasonal events turned Göbekli Tepe into the beating heart of a wide network, a place where the entire community could renew its bonds under the gaze of the stone pillars. Without writing, the people of Göbekli Tepe relied entirely on oral tradition to preserve their history, beliefs, and skills. Stories, songs, and chants carried knowledge from one generation to the next. Around campfires, elders recited myths explaining the creation of the world, the origins of the animal spirits, and the meaning of the stone pillars. These tales were likely rich with symbolism, weaving together lessons about survival, morality, and the cycles of nature. Music and rhythm played a crucial role in memory. Repetitive chants and drum beats helped preserve the structure of stories, ensuring they were passed down intact. Young listeners learned through participation, absorbing both the narrative and the cultural values it carried. The pillars themselves may have acted as memory aids, each carving a prompt for part of a larger story, much like chapters in a book carved in stone. Through oral tradition, the voices of Göbekli Tepe's builders still echo. Even after soaring years, Göbekli Tepe's builders lived at the threshold of a major human transformation: the shift from foraging to farming. Wild wheat and barley grew in abundance in the region, and evidence suggests these people were already experimenting with harvesting and processing grain. Seasonal gatherings at the site may have encouraged the sharing of knowledge about plant cultivation. Over generations, this could have led to the first domesticated crops. Farming would change everything, enabling permanent settlements, larger populations, and new social structures. It's possible that Göbekli Tepe's role diminished as communities became more self-sufficient. Once the primary force uniting people, the site may have become less central as new villages and local shrines emerged. Yet the skills, cooperation, and shared beliefs that built Göbekli Tepe likely laid the foundation for the farming revolution. In a way, the stone circles were not just monuments to the past. They were stepping stones toward the future. The end of the last ice age brought dramatic climate shifts. Around the time Göbekli Tepe was built, melting glaciers raised sea levels, altered weather patterns, and transformed landscapes. In the Fertile Crescent, warmer temperatures encouraged the growth of wild grains, but also brought unpredictable droughts and floods. These changes may have been a driving force behind the construction of monumental sites. In uncertain times, communities often turned to ritual and belief for stability. Göbekli Tepe could have served as a spiritual anchor, a place where people sought to influence the forces of nature or ask for protection. Some theories suggest that a sudden climatic event, like a prolonged drought, could have played a role in the eventual abandonment and burial of the site. Whatever the cause, the climate of soaring years ago was a world in flux, and the builders of Göbekli Tepe were navigating those changes with both ingenuity and faith. One controversial theory links Göbekli Tepe to a major climatic event known as the Younger Dryas, a sudden return to glacial conditions around Ju. Some scientists believe this shift was triggered by a massive comet impact, which caused fires, atmospheric dust, and a sharp drop in global temperatures. Proponents argue that the builders of Göbekli Tepe may have been recording this catastrophe in their carvings, particularly on the famous vulture stone. The combination of animal symbols and abstract shapes may represent constellations and a cosmic event. If this theory is correct, Göbekli Tepe would not only be the world's oldest monumental structure, but also one of the earliest records of a natural disaster. It would show that our ancestors observed, remembered, and memorialized events on a scale far beyond their own lifetimes. While still debated, the Younger Dryas theory adds another layer of mystery to the site, making it both a temple and a cosmic time capsule, although Göbekli Tepe itself shows no signs of permanent housing. The surrounding hills likely hosted temporary camps during gatherings. Here the builders lived, cooked, crafted tools, and prepared for rituals. Hunters brought back game to be butchered and cooked over open fires. Women processed wild grains into bread or porridge, while children fetched water from nearby springs. Toolmakers chipped flint into blades, spear points, and carving tools. The sounds of daily life, the clink of stone tools, the crackle of fire, the chatter of voices would have filled the air. In the evenings, people gathered to share food, stories, and songs before climbing the hill for ceremonies. This blending of work, socializing, and ritual made Göbekli Tepe a vibrant seasonal hub. Even if people didn't live here year-round, their connection to the place was strong enough to bring them back generation after generation. Building Göbekli Tepe required cooperation on a scale rarely seen among hunter-gatherers. Multiple groups would have had to set aside rivalries to work together. But was it all harmony? Some anthropologists suggest that competition between groups might have actually driven the construction. Leaders may have sought to outdo one another in offering the most impressive ceremonies or the grandest carvings. Rivalry, paradoxically, could have strengthened unity, pushing people to collaborate for the sake of prestige and shared identity. While there is no evidence of warfare at Göbekli Tepe, stone tools and weapons found nearby suggest the potential for conflict. In a world of scarce resources, tensions were inevitable. Ritual gatherings may have helped diffuse disputes, serving as both spiritual and diplomatic events. Whether born of cooperation or competition, the result was the same: a monument that brought people together in ways that still inspire awe today. The evidence from stone tools and materials suggests that Göbekli Tepe was connected to a network of trade spanning hundreds of miles. Obsidian from volcanic regions, exotic flint types, and shells from distant coasts have all been found in the area. These materials would have been brought by traders or exchanged during seasonal gatherings. Such trade not only provided useful resources, but also spread ideas, styles, and techniques. A carver from one region might learn a new method from another, blending traditions into the unique style seen at Göbekli Tepe. Trade routes also carried stories and beliefs, expanding the cultural reach of the site. Over time, Göbekli Tepe may have become known far beyond its immediate surroundings, a pilgrimage center drawing people from across the ancient Near East. This exchange of goods and ideas helped create a shared cultural identity, one that would influence human development for centuries to come. Göbekli Tepe stands as a testament to humanity's earliest spiritual awakening. Long before cities or kings, people gathered here to express ideas bigger than themselves. Ideas about life, death, the cosmos, and the unseen forces shaping the world. These were not simple survival activities. They were deliberate symbolic acts of meaning-making. By raising massive pillars and carving intricate images, the builders were giving form to their beliefs, turning invisible and tangible. In doing so, they marked a turning point in human history, the birth of shared spiritual identity. The hilltop became a meeting place for the mind and the spirit, where stories, rituals, and cooperation forged bonds stronger than blood ties. Göbekli Tepe reminds us that civilization didn't start with bricks and plows, but with ideas, the urge to gather, believe, and create together. In Ling Ishupat, Göbekli Tepe was officially added to the UNESCO World Heritage List. This recognition acknowledged not only its age and uniqueness, but also its profound impact on our understanding of human history. The designation brought international attention and increased tourism, making the site a symbol of shared global heritage. Funding for preservation, ensuring that the fragile pillars and carvings would be protected from erosion and human damage. New walkways, protective roofing, and interpretive displays now allow visitors to experience the site without harming it. Researchers continue to study the area, uncovering more about the people who built it. UNESCO status transformed Göbekli Tepe from a hidden archaeological treasure into a celebrated landmark of human achievement, connecting the modern world to a story that began over surely years ago. With fame comes responsibility. The rise in tourism after UNESCO recognition brought economic benefits to the region, but also raised concerns about preservation. Increased foot traffic, temperature changes, and accidental contact with the stones can accelerate erosion. Archaeologists and conservators work tirelessly to balance access with protection. Elevated walkways prevent direct contact with the enclosures, while climate-controlled shelters shield the most fragile areas from wind and rain. Educational programs teach visitors about the importance of preservation, turning them into advocates for the site's future. But challenges remain, especially as climate change threatens the stability of the surrounding environment. Göbekli Tepe's survival depends on careful stewardship, ensuring that future generations can stand among the pillars and feel the same awe that we do today. Göbekli Tepe offers more than historical insight. It carries lessons for our own time. It shows that humans are capable of immense cooperation without centralized authority, advanced technology, or economic systems. What united its builders was shared belief and purpose. It reminds us that creativity and community are not byproducts of civilization. They are its foundation. Age of division. Göbekli Tepe is a reminder of what people can achieve when they work toward a common vision. It also challenges the way we see progress. The builders were not primitive. They were problem solvers, artists, and engineers. By honoring their legacy, we acknowledge that wisdom comes in many forms, not just in the tools we use, but in the stories we tell and the connections we forge. Even after decades of study, Göbekli Tepe's full purpose remains unknown. Was it a temple, an observatory, a gathering place, or something beyond our current imagination? Perhaps it was all these things at once. The intentional burial of the site adds to its enigma. Was it an act of reverence, abandonment, or protection? Every answer only seems to raise more questions. Maybe that's the true gift of Göbekli Tepe, its ability to keep us wondering. It connects us to our distant ancestors not through certainty, but through curiosity. They stood beneath the same stars, faced the same mysteries of life and death, and sought meaning in the same way we do today. As long as its stones stand, Göbekli Tepe will remain a conversation between the past and the present, and perhaps that is the most important legacy of all as we stand before the silent stones of Göbekli Tepe. We realize that the story of humanity is far older, richer, and more mysterious than we ever imagined. These pillars are not just relics, they are the voices of our distant ancestors, still speaking across millennia, asking us to remember where we came from. Göbekli Tepe challenges the way we see the past. It reminds us that belief, art, and community came before cities, kings, and even farming. These ancient builders left behind no written words, yet their message endures in stone, that humanity's spirit reaches for meaning beyond survival. We may never know exactly why they built this place, or why they buried it, but perhaps that's the beauty of it. Some mysteries are meant to remain, sparking wonder, inspiring discovery, and connecting us to a shared human heritage. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through time. I hope Göbekli Tepe has ignited your curiosity and deepened your appreciation for the human story. Our story that